Okay, so we are on page Ayin Aleph in the Hebrew edition and in the English edition, 87. Shabbos Kodesh Ubeis Hamikdash Sulam Makasher Shemay. Now we were talking about the dream of Yaakov actually last week, because he was speaking about that idea of the ladder that connects us to the Beis Hamikdash. Yaakov awakens from the dream. He says, "Achein," right? I'm in a makam kadosh. V'ani lo yadati, anochi lo yadati. I didn't even know where I was. And anytime a person is able to connect to the divine and realize that, wow, I didn't realize how connected I really was, which is, I think, the great message of Yaakov. He's wandering. He's lost. He has no idea how found he really is. Right? Connect. It sounds almost Christian. He has no idea how connected he really is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeshnam kama sulamos. There are many ladders. Shemegashrim ben olam hakadosha olam hachulin. And we were talking about in the previous piece, fascinating idea that we have these periods in time that represent crossovers between the world to come and this world, Yemot Mashiach. That means there's madness in our world, but there's also messianic moments. And even in the Yemot Mashiach, it's still a little bit crazy. And then we have this craziest time in the weekly calendar, which is Erev Shabbos, which for everyone except for Shira is a maddening moment in their schedule. She's calm, sipping coffee and relaxed tea.
I love that concept of the Yetzer Hara, as Anna said the last night.
Oh yeah,
I love that. I thought that was
also the Yetzer Hara will also get you at your highest moments, your moments of victory and success, and that's when you have to watch out. When you're feeling really good about yourself and feeling good about life, that's the most dangerous moment.
So if you're really aware and you're praying gratitude, does that help at all?
I think so.
Because I make a point of always praying when I come out of the bathroom. Oh my goodness, this is working, and every single time I pray.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we have to always have that mindset. Only when you struggle with a certain area do you realize how important that prayer is. But Erev Shabbos is a gesher, it's a bridge between Shabbos and Chol. So it's a precarious time, but it's also a time that's infused with Kedusha. So, for instance, we will have a mitzvah that we're going to talk about called Tosefes Shabbos, which is the opportunity to add on to Shabbos something that wasn't previously there. Okay, so Yeshnam Kamasulam, there are many ladders that connect our worlds. Va'aretz nasan livnei adam. So we have Shamayim Shamayim Lashem. The heavens were given to Hashem, but the earth was given to us. In the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, we talk about the Kabbalistic significance of the name of Hashem. You have two letters that are Hey, that's the receptacle, that's the world, that represents the Kli, in which we receive Hashem's influence, right? Sometimes it's in a physical form, some in a spiritual form. There's the Yud, which is sort of the light that's reaching down, but not quite into our world, and we have to reach up to get it. And there's the Vav that takes the Yud all the way down to our world, right? That's the Yud Kei Vav Kei. So that's why Shem Hashem represents the Shem of Chesed. It gives us, it bestows kindness into our world. So normally Hashem says, Shamayim, Shamayim LaHashem, Va'aretz nasan livnei adam. Shamayim was for God. The earth was given to us. Ve'echad mehem hu asulam nikra Beit HaMikdash. And then there's the ladder that's called the Beit HaMikdash, which is Mekasher, which connects the heavens to the earth.
Put it away if you want.
Beis HaMikdash. Okay, so Beis HaMikdash, Haya Gesher Sulam. It's a bridge or a ladder. Shekisher ben Olam HaKadosha Shemaimi Olam HaChulin Shelanu. Next, the heavenly world to the mundane world. Hayazem Makom Mufla Anod. And the Beis HaMikdash in space is wondrous because it connects us with something that we're not in touch with regularly. Remember, we keep talking about makom, zman, nefesh, place, time, and person. So the sanctuary in place is the sanctuary, is the Beit HaMikdash, and it's a physical manifestation of Shamayim, of Shechina. So when you're there, you have to prepare. You can't just show up. Everyone has to go there. You can't be tamei. You have to go to the mikvah. To wait 7 days to approach the Beit HaMikdash. and that and then you have to maintain certain conduct while you're there. So all of this, right? All of this, and then certain levels depending on who you are, right? But all of this is because it's a bridge between our world and Shemayim. Now, mitzad echad, Adam shenich lebeis mikdash, yochol lachshov shu nimtza ba'olam shekulu chol. On the one hand, you go into the Beis Mikdash, it looks like any structure. It's a building, and it looks mundane. Hanam misarta umasritim et hanas beit hamikdash. Ma'in. If we made a movie,
If we take
pictures, okay, seret. Seret means it could be a film, right? Film is seret. Just to say, these the black kippot, some of them have a little border, some don't. Called like a film, they call it seret. So I used to say, if you walk around with a kippah without a seret, bli seret, you'll go to a seret without a kippah. That was they used to joke. I don't know why a seret on a kippah is considered more from than but you'll observe now when you look at the various velvet yarmulkes, if they don't have the border, it's considered a little risque, a little. Yeah, daredevils there. Those rascally punks without the seret on their fuzzy yarmulkes. Okay, mitzad echad, we all have routines, a shtick that makes it ridiculous, right? Yochol hu lachshov shehu nimtza ba'olam shekulu chol. I could find in this world that's fully mundane because I'm looking there. I see that you take a picture. What do you see? Kohanim mistovim. You see Kohanim walking around. Ara arkavo sam besoch. It's an exaggeration, obviously, but they're knee deep in blood.
Was there drains and stuff?
Yeah, but it means that there's a lot of blood. Lulios, shalulios, shildam. Yeah. Zorkim dam al gab mizbech, throwing blood at mizbech. Ochlon kamos nich bada, shel basar besuda achas, eating like a liver of blood. Yochel one suda, it looks like a Quentin Tarantino film. Ani harbe pamim choshev al kach belel Pesach. Think about this on Pesach. B'shasha kulam mesuvim layad shulchan haseder. V'ochlam b'behilos es ha'kazeisim shel matzah. We're eating the kazayis of matzah. Im ezeh chiloni ogoy ha'ya oved over liyad chalon. If someone would peek into our window, mabit panima. Myro, what would they see? Mabar bashud zeu olam shulchulin. They would say, these Jews are stuffing their face. They're eating, and they're just and look how quickly he's crumbling the matzah into his mouth, and he's not chewing. They would see madness. Right, so he's like, I like to think about the Seder, how to us it's majestic, but on the outside it looks like a very physical, indulgent evening. It's Hacheni. Bizol Beis Mikdash, Atzmo, Tofat, Shekol Echad, Shiro San, Hevin, Shemikdash, Lav, Nahai Almahu. Everyone would look in, they'd understand this is not this world. This isn't just a building, this is not the Javits Center. Asar Nisim Ayusham, the Ofen Tamidi. There were 10 miracles that happened on a regular basis, at least in Bayis Rishon. Gemara Megillah Daf Yud tells us that they would have 10 nisim that happened in the first temple. It did not repeat themselves in the second temple, but what were they? Things like there was never a fly, a woman would never miscarry, right? Things like that. The smell of the meat didn't smell bad.
In the basement.
Yeah, there were a number of nisim, and the Ketoris never dispersed. It went straight up. The Kodesh Kedoshim Amada Aaron. The fact that the Holy of Holies, the Ark stood there. Amar Chazal Makom Aaron Eno Miramida. It didn't fit. If you look at the measurements of the Aron in the room, it did not fit in the ark, right? It didn't make sense. You can't fit 10 by 10 into 10 by 10, right? Amos. So the purport, it was only B'nais to tell you that this was Mala Minteva, that this whole structure is supernatural.
That already even is like a physical, because it's connecting to.
Right. So it's both. You have the physical and the spiritual combined. Klomar, Rochav Ha'aron. I'm going to conduct a class on for the regular minion here on putting the phone into silent mode. Special millennial lecture series.
That's what I do at the beginning of each class. Everyone take out your phone, switch it off.
We had my friend who had passed away. They had I told you about him in Philly. So they had the unveiling, the Hakamas Matseva on Sundays. I helped a little bit with the writing, with sister to write the Dvar Torah, which was said at the kever, and my father was there, and he was he wrote the phone with him, but like 3/4 of the of the thing was like his face, like a zoom in on his face. I'm like, turn the camera. We're trying to tell him turn it around, so we held up a sign: turn around the camera, turn her around. Yeah. Okay. Truth is, I'd rather see my father's face than a gravestone. So, okay. Yeah. Mitzad Sheni, b'toch Beit HaMikdash atzmo tofat shel kol charboatan. Mikdash Shlab Hayalma. It's not in this world. It was a miracle. It was Makam Aron Eina Min Amida. It didn't hold up. Klomar Rochav Ha'aron. The width of the arm was Shtayim V'chetzi Amos. Okay, so sorry, I didn't have the numbers right. 2.5 Amos. Right? The Kodesh Gedoshim Rochvo Haya Esrim Amma. Okay, so it was 20 Amos. Im Haya Nichnas Hasham Adam Im Meter Umatchil Im Dod. If you brought a measuring stick, started to measure, Hirosh Mitzido Ha'echad Shel Aaron Yesh Eser Amma. There's one side, there's 10 Amos. I was right. V'gam Atzad Sheni Eser Amma, 10 Amos. Hechan Nelmu Shtayim V'chetzi Amos Shel Rochav Aaron. Then what happened with the thickness of the Aaron? You're not accounting for the 2.5 rochav of the Aaron. Makam Aaron in a minimida. It didn't fit. Beit HaMikdash hay makam shelo hay me hay alma.
Because I learned very Francis.
All right. In the meantime, we lost Dario. Okay, so Beit HaMikdash was so itself was a miracle. All of it was a nace. In addition, it was something that was miraculous. There were angels, there were various creatures and spiritual beings who have no connection whatsoever to our world. Ki adam kamono lo yachol. That a person couldn't enter into that place. It's a man standing on the threshold of the door. So he's saying that, you would stand on the door, you would be afraid to go one step further, but a Kohen is then going one step further into this place where you'd be afraid to go, right? How do we refer to you? Is this in English also, this whole thing? Who he asks with trepidation. Yankel. The Kohen says, my name is Yankel, Yaakov. Yankel? I thought you were Gabriel the angel. Lo, ani basar adam, a human being, flesh and blood, but you kamocha, just like you. As the Kohen goes into the temple, nichnas roel lefanov kohanim, levim Israelim. You see priests, Levites in Israel, lo yoter. Ach kechol shaya nichnas penima yoter v'yoter. As you go deeper and deeper into the sanctuary, you're on that ladder and you're going higher and higher. You get into the place of the Holy of Holies. You find a language that's amazing in Chazal. Nobody can enter the tent of meeting. I don't understand. Didn't the Kohen Gadol go there on Yom Kippur? When the divine spirit was sharui alav, was on him, his face was boarot, was on fire like a lapid esh, like a torch. The lips of the Kohen will watch knowledge, for he is an angel. In other words, man is like an angel in that moment. Kohen is almost l'mayla being human at that moment, because he goes to the place where otherwise a human being would not be allowed. We have this crossover between malachim and humans in the beginning of this week's parsha also. Yaakov sends malachim, and there's a big debate in the Rishon. Look at Rabbeinu Bachai on that pasuk. Is he sending people? Is he sending angels? It's not clear. Are they angels and people? It's a little bit of both. Like, what exactly is he doing? How can we send angels? You can't really send angels on a mission. So we have this crossover here.
What's ulam?
Ulam is part of the Beis Hamikdash. The ulam is the if you open the Chumash, you'll see it in there. Ulam. The ulam is this part, right here. As you enter, like see the base of the tefillin. That's the ulam. As you enter the entryway into the Kodesh. Yeah. Zui achas agdaros pshutos biyosir shel Shabbos Kodesh. This is actually similar to Shabbos. Gesher bein olam hachulin olam hakdosha. It's a bridge between the world of chulin and the world of holiness. Adam shenichnas soch Shabbos Kodesh mitzad echad hu nimsa k'ulav chulin. You enter Shabbos, it's chulin. You're eating, you're drinking, right? You're sleeping. There's nothing. Shum davar miuchad. Nothing is special. It's just basically human existence. But there is a bridge. If you know how to get in, you can get to heaven. Right? So Shabbos, we are the Kohen Gadol. We are entering into the Holy of Holies. And so we have sanctuary in time and in place that serve as the bridge between those two extremes. Now, the next chapter, Legia Shamayim Olishar Reik Bechol Mikol Tochen. So here are choices: is either to enter into heaven or to remain empty-handed without any substance. Sounds like a good choice, easy choice. All 6 days of creation, the existence is our world. In Tochen, he created this world with substance. All the benefits and all the greatness. Shabbos in es hatochen sheyesh l'shar yamim. The substance of Shabbos is not like the other days. Tochen sheyesh l'yom Shabbos hu yosa neutz b'shamayim. It's really heavenly. Nekach kol yimot hachol shem yamim b'tfisa shalanu, which is in our grasp. Teva hinenu mamalim osamim kedusha. What do? We try to fill up our world with holiness. Yes, on a Siddharam, we spend time studying Torah, we go to classes, Lomdim Mekayim Mitzvos, we go to Daven, we do Chesed. Mashenkin Shabbos, we don't have to fill our world up with holiness. We're entering God's world. Mishadei Lalos, remember we talked about going up to the Yud versus the Vav coming down? We're going up to God's world. Mishadei Lalos also, so you know how to climb the ladder. Great, Mufla. Harei Sharviach Otzma She'ein B'Shum Yom Echad Mishalo Yodeh. If you don't know how, Nishar Lamatam Olam Shulchun, you're going to remain below. Shabbos nisharas. That's low. Yom Reik B'Yosem Mikol Yom Shua. Shabbos is the most boring day in the world. If you don't know how to do, right? If you don't know what to do, then you're leaving on the TV and covering up the blanket to wait for Saturday morning cartoons because you can't imagine anything greater. Advarim Yufaru Yoser Al Pi Mashal. Now we can explain this even deeper with a mashal if we need. Adam B'Chol Matzav Shu B'Chai B'Echol. Person has to eat no matter what. L'chein. When you leave your house and you go somewhere, sandwich, you'll bring a drink and a sandwich. This is what he's going to eat when he travels, travel food. Right? If you're in your house and you want to eat something, as a sandwich, if you look in your bag, you're not going to find the sandwich and the drink, otherwise it's going to be really rotten. Atik reik, the bag is empty. Madua, why is your bag empty? Because you're in the source of the food. The sandwich was made in your house. The bread is in the drawer. The sandwich meat is in the refrigerator. This is the source of where that sandwich came from. Yeshlanu makarer, malay kol tuv. You have a refrigerator filled with all the goodies. But if you don't know that you have to open up the refrigerator, you're going to be hungry. So that's an interesting mashal, right? In other words, people like traveling, right? They enjoy it. It's fun. They like, going to, especially in New York airports, you can buy a kosher sandwich for $27. It's delicious. And it's nice. Oh, look, I have a sandwich. Right? It's a to-go meal. It's fun for people, right? When you're in your home, you're starving, eat, open the fridge. Problem is, you don't know to open the fridge. Kol Yehudi gam yoshim beveit midrash, gam elu ha'amalim leparnas osam mekaymin b'zemitzah adam la'amel yulad. Kihu kol shavua. We were born to work, to be productive in this world. So you go to work, you're learning. all the things you're doing in your week. When Shabbos arrives, everything changes. It's the day of Menucha. It's the day of Kedusha. And we find that everything is on a much loftier, higher level, higher madrega, a much deeper place. And therefore, if you look for the holiness in the places that are proper, you know how to acquire it. So then you can live through Shabbos as you do during the week. But if you don't know where to look, then Shabbos is going to feel empty. So the experience of Shabbos as being a day that is devoid is simply because we don't know how to look for. We don't know how to act when we're home. We only know how to act when we're traveling, right? Which is only or in this world, in the mundane world.
Rabbi, something you said a couple of sessions ago, I think we talked about it, was the idea of setting up routines or rituals on Shabbos, so you don't feel that time is empty. So you know at 11 o'clock you're going to do X or Y, or this is how you're going to do things.
To plan it out a little bit.
Plan it out and give it some intentional thought.
I think that's very helpful. I don't remember saying that, but whoever said that is a very smart man. It's fine. It's fine. I'll take the credit. But no, it's I think intentionality is the best way to accomplish anything, right? Your to-do lists. So you want to plan it out. Otherwise, it will just be empty space.
If you feel that, then you feel compelled. It's like a vacuum. Like you have to fill a vacuum. The idea of just it becomes like a vacuum, and anything you can fill the time. Whereas if you have intentionality, then you feel it productively.
And then if you don't plan it out, you're going to sit by the edge of that door, the doorstep. How do I get inside? How are these people? You see these people who are enjoying davening. How are they? I don't get it. I don't get it. How do I get into that room? Right? You see people who are engaged in a Torah. What do they see in that? What are they doing? And you're confused because you've never intentionally carved out that space. So that's the same thing, that if you want to get into Shabbos, you want to understand how precious it is, you gotta really connect to Shabbos. You can't just say, okay, I won't do X, Y, and Z. You have to recognize you're home with Hashem. So, and it's easier said than done. But that's called Shabbos. If you do it, otherwise you lose that. Someone who does that has no connection to real Judaism. They're cut off because they're losing the purpose. In other words, let's say in the end we're Shomer Shabbos, right? So Shomer Shabbos, what does that mean? It means that I'm not doing malacha. It's got to be more than that. If these days are lower, we don't know how to hold on to grasp the greatness of Shabbos. And it's impossible to hold on to Shabbos like you do the other days of the week. Shabbos it's a unique service. It requires a greater, a larger mind. And so let's not get into details, he says, lo nichnas lepratim, but we have to at least think about the effort that is needed, that intentionality on Shabbos, mindfulness of Shabbos. Who does this? You're going to open yourself up a beautiful spring that's powerful and forever. And you just waltz into Shabbos as another day. You lose the beauty and the essence of the day. And as a result, the source of everything, right? It's like eventually the sandwich is going to be gone during your week. And if you don't replenish the refrigerator, if you don't have the Shabbos source of the food, then the week ultimately dries up also. Now, there's a special section called Erev Shabbos and Motzei Shabbos, the bridge times between the Chol and the Shabbos. The Rav tells a story about an older Jew in his shul in Europe who he was a very poor courier of produce from the marketplace, right? But a Traeger, they call him, right? Could be a water carrier, but a Traeger, and he would he always had like ripped clothing, but on Shabbos he had his nice bekisha, and he was one time sitting in Shal Shudas, and he would sing Mizmor LeDavid, and he'd say again, Nachama, Nachama, again, and Shabbos would be brought into the Chol. We'd keep singing and singing. I remember when I was at my Rebbe's house years ago, Yerushalayim, there was a new niggin that came out. It was an old niggin that was rediscovered by Ben Zion Solomon and Sons, the Moshav band, and they were singing. It's such a beautiful tune. It's my favorite tune for Shir Maos, and we were just singing it for like an hour and a half straight. And Shabbos ended, and then we went outside. It was an hour after Shabbos, and we looked for a minyan. We found the Ramban. We had 7 of us, and we found 3 people. We made a minyan, and we weren't going anywhere. There's nowhere to go. We were like, oh, we have to catch a movie. Shabbos was brought into the chol. I'll never forget that experience. I didn't for 1 second look at my watch and wonder. I didn't have a watch, but I didn't for 1 second look at my watch and wonder, well, when is this going to end? It was an incredible feeling. Now you could have the greatest speaker in the world come, but if you tread over the boundary of Shabbos and Ma'ariv time, Yaharag Val Yavor, you're in trouble. People are going to be staring at their watches and giving you the faces, and you have to realize that that's a little bit of it's a problem. It's a problem. It means that Shabbos. It means you have no idea what Shabbos is if you're doing that.
This is something that I struggle with my girls because of electronics, like you were saying. They're constantly saying like, how much, when is Shabbos over? And I keep trying to say, we're so lucky it's Shabbos. And I find that it's hard.
You need to break the tablets. And to come down from the mountain and go, you have 2 girls, 2 tablets, right?
Yeah. It's I try and find ways to show them how special Shabbos is and how lucky, right? It's hard to, I mean, other than it's addictive and it's whatever it is, it's just it's hard to give them that high. But you can
give them a better high. You can give them face-to-face interactions.
Yeah, well, that's what.
And it's so much better. It's so much better, and they'll appreciate that. Even if they forget about it when they on the device, they're going to appreciate it much more.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the loss of not appreciating what that is great. It's catastrophic. And we also have an opportunity to go up many levels in the bridge between Erev Shabbos, Motzi Shabbos. Those are the most precarious times in the week. As you're going from Chol to Shabbos, you're going from Shabbos to Chol, recognize that bridge is a dangerous one, but it's also a good one. Miles of Shabbos. Let's finish up this whole section, this chapter. What do we do on Shabbos? Shabbos. How do we save, right? Utilize. I'm going to mention 2 things. You have to observe the Shabbos. Not to violate Shabbos. Obviously, we have the Lamitet Malachot. And the Iker Lis Kor Shayom Shabbos. You have to also remember that you're holding the Shabbos. Today is Shabbos. Yesh Achar Tzarayim Aruch. When you have a long afternoon, Erev Aruch, a long evening, and you're sitting, you're wondering what to do. So Chilul Shabbos. That's a Chilul Shabbos. Sitting and doing nothing. To forget that it's Shabbos is Chilul Shabbos. So mindfulness, right? Awareness that you're in something special. If you imagine you went on vacation, you went somewhere exotic or somewhere famous, some famous world landmark. You're going to see the Eiffel Tower for the first time. So when you stand there and you go and you see this famous structure you've only seen in movies, you're going to take it in. You realize I'm not in Kansas anymore, and you wouldn't forget for a single moment that you're somewhere somewhere special. So Shabbos, you can't forget for a moment that you're in Shabbos. So he says, and what do we do? Let's say you read books, even if you're reading books about tzaddikim. But just to pass the time, you're going to pick up your favorite novel. That's a ma'aser shenod kol shkoch. See, this resonates with me. This is not coming from a Haredi anti-magazine, anti-book model. This is coming from be mindful of Shabbos. So books to pass the time are itself fundamentally problematic. You're not living Shabbos. There is an element of Chilul Shabbos there. 24 hours, we have to try to live in the Shabbos-dic person. Maltazman limud, filling up with learning, with holiness, not to jump madreg gavot. Even the way we walk and carry ourselves and exercise, we don't do that, right? Not using the stepmaster, right? Ein shum tzorach b'zeh. There's no need. Madregot ba'od me'Hashem yisbarach. Steps come from God. Shabbos atzma. So every step is Shabbos. Alena moto rak harchev picha v'amleu. Widen your mouth and I'll fill it, right? L'chayot she'achshav Shabbos. V'dat she'omdim lifnei ma'ayan she'nikra Shabbos. I'm standing in front of the river. Shabbos. Adam shechayet Shabbos Kodesh zui ne'itza. If you're living Shabbos, that's what we're talking about here. That's filling it with meaning. Chadira l'soch olam hakadosh. And it's getting into a world of holiness. Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash was a sugya miuchedet shel shmira. It was a special parsha in its own of observance. There are walls. There's curtains. Every doorway, there's another shomer. There's another guard. You can't get, if you're a certain person, you can't access one section. If another person, you can't access another section. What does that mean? Not because we're an exclusive club, but because we want you to know that there's something called the Beis Hamikdash that's unique, that is not accessible to all people at all times. So davar meod manyan. Chashavti atzmi be'etzem. Kama zman kfar avdu sham. Sach hakol ma'boker atzarayim shas shtayim kfar nizkar Beis Hamikdash. That really, how many hours a day were worshipped in the Beis Hamikdash? From the morning to the evening, right? So by the time you get to 2, Shashtayim Kfar Nizgar Beis Hamikdash, temple is closed. Avodah Karbanot Lo Mila Et Yom. Beis Hamikdash Lo Yehav Makom Rak Shel Avodah. In other words, at some point in the day, they would have to close the shop because there was no more karbanos being offered later in the day. So what did they do in the temple 24 hours if they weren't offering karbanos? Right? Was there a shuffleboard competition? Like what they have there? Shmira. That's all it was. Shomrim hafke li'ircha kol yom v'chol halayla. Chaim besocham beis mikdash. Life in beis mikdash. Mechitzos, barriers within barriers. Yehudi shenichnas yodea hetif shenimsa v'keis mikdash. If you go there, one thing you're aware of, you are standing in the temple.
There were actually guards there all the time.
Well, at each door you would have shomrim. Yeah, Levium would stand and be shomrim, and Yisraelim would be shomrim at various gates. Shabbos Kodesh. Zman shebo aleinu l'Shabbos b'Beis Hamikdash. Shabbos is the time that we are resting in the temple. Lilmod, Lispalo, Lomar Pirkei Tehillim. Say Tehillim. See, you can say Tehillim. There you go. Rak lo lasok behevelim, but don't do nothing. Don't do nonsense, because it's heres achorban. That's destructive. Achas men hakodesh yesh lasim alein leiv beofen yuchad v'ashos halalu me'erev Shabbos acharei chatzos, after midday on Friday to Shabbos. Adam tzarich pashul l'malei hazmanim halalu l'tfos malachim, not to grasp angels.
Not to engage in empty activities, etc.
Right? Liot kozman beit mikdash beit medrash shakua be'esek Torah va'osakach and lo savig yotzei gadol Yisrael. So now, of course, if you were sitting and studying all day long, you would emerge a great leader. Kibalti zos me'echad merabosai al echad gedolim shvachol erev Shabbos hu yoshev l'lamed. I heard that one of the Gedolei Yisrael used to sit Erev Shabbos and learn. Kol Shabbos Yoshev v'Lamed. And Shabbos he would sit and learn. V'cheinu gadal, and that's how he was raised. V'vadai she'yeshnam anashim shegedelim b'tzura acheres. V'alzui echem adrachim abotchim matzliach Erev Shabbos haShabbos Moshe. One of the great things you could do on Erev Shabbos is set some time up for learning. That would be interesting. Imagine, so when the Mishnah arrives in your inbox, you could learn for 5 minutes, right? Or whatever it is, you could figure that out. If you do this, Niftachem the fun of olamot, you open for yourself worlds. Zoche l'siyat d'shmaya atzum, and you will have tremendous help from God. Kol b'chinos, from all of your struggles. Kua b'dbarech Shabbos shia mayan kol brachos, because you're blessed from Shabbos, which is the mayan, the spring of all blessing in the world. So the next section we'll talk about is called Haneshama L'Neshama Shel Shabbos Museget Aidei Limud Mesechah Shabbos. Study specifically of Mesechah Shabbos, which we are now studying in Mishnah Yomi.
Are we meeting next week then?